I no longer have a standard bar size packaging need. I have to make new flow wrap designs for a much smaller piece of chocolate. And in terms of selling that in store, it's going to be in a stand-up pouch, which is something that I did not previously sell. And I had a small box that I sold in store. So I'm currently completely redesigning what that stand-up pouch would look like. And I'm using this as an opportunity to look backwards and say, here's all the things that I have heard and I've noticed since I launched that original packaging. And now what should I do to make sure it stands out on the shelf?
Welcome to the Profitable Graphic Designer podcast. I'm Katie Sondel, brand strategist, designer, and the CEO of a successful six-figure design agency. I teach brand, graphic, and web designers how to get more clients, increase their pricing, and build profitable design businesses in a simple and sustainable way. We have online programs, courses, and templates that you can use, as well as our coaching and mastermind high-touch experience for creatives. You can find out more about starting and growing your design business at aventivacademy.com. But until then, grab a cup of coffee and join me in today's podcast episode. Hello, David, and thank you so much for being here. Before we start, I just want our listeners to know that in this episode, I'm actually interviewing someone who has a business and had to go through the process of finding a logo designer, packaging designer, website designer, or he had to design all of that by himself, and we'll find that out during the interview. So he is someone who could potentially be your client if you're a brand graphic or web designer. And in this episode, I really wanted to provide where you can hear from a client and, learn in this episode how the client thinks. And the whole episode is basically from the client's perspective. So now, David, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what kind of business you have.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. David Jacobowitz. I am the founder of Nebula Snacks, on a mission to eliminate added sugars from Earth's snacks. Right now, I have a couple of zero sugar chocolate bars, and in the future, all snacks and varieties to come. So working on some new flavors at the moment, but excited to continue to share some tasty treats without the added sugars with everybody out there who loves snacks just like I do.
Yeah, I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the chocolate business or snack business?
Yeah, so my background actually has nothing to do with food and beverage. I come from the wonderful world of tech and digital marketing. I spent my last 5 years of my career in social media companies, 4 years at Facebook, now Meta, and 1 year at TikTok, where I was working with different businesses, consulting them on how to advertise on the platforms. But in 2020, I had just moved to New York for a new job at Facebook. The pandemic occurred. I got locked into my small New York City apartment, started playing video games, started snacking a lot because we didn't have much to do during those times. Had a lot of sugar, started gaining weight, started affecting my sleep and my overall mood. And I had the idea one night, why not make a company with sugar-free snacks that actually satiate that sweet tooth calling that I naturally have on a nightly basis, if not more frequently. And that's where the idea really started. So I would like to say I'm an amateur chef. I by no means am a pro, but I started testing recipes in my kitchen, playing around with different sweeteners and recipes that I could figure out what is going to work to make this taste actually pretty solid. I am happy to admit my first couple of batches did not taste good at all, but ended up getting closer and closer, got in touch with a chocolatier to be able to take my recipe and bring it to a production level readiness with a contract manufacturer. That whole process, including creating the brand and going through the process of setting up an LLC and packaging, that took 1.5 years and launched in November of 2021. So I've been in business a little bit over a year now.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like most of I can say most of us would struggle with not finding the right snacks, but I don't think we would take an action on that. So that's
Yeah, I felt
amazing.
passionate enough. I felt passionate enough, and yeah, I mean, I think I just wasn't happy with the sugar-free options on the market at the time. And, a lot of them have a ton of sugar alcohols, which if you have an excess, might cause an upset stomach. Or they're using artificial sweeteners, or they're just not truly hitting on the taste profiles that you want out of a snack that's going to hit your sweet tooth marker.
Yeah, exactly. And so many people don't even know what they're consuming. you know, there are some bars that I had in the past, and I heard, oh, they're healthy, but now that I know more about the whole CPG industry and the healthy snacks and just about healthy ingredients, I'm like, well, this was more like a sugar bar, not really a healthy
Yes.
bar.
Yes, there's a lot of ways that you can market a product to be sugar free or healthy that don't necessarily correlate with the ingredients on the back. So I will say, despite anything you see on the front of the package, I always recommend you read the nutrition facts and the ingredient panel whenever you're consuming any food product, particularly that what you're buying in the middle of the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. So, how did you come up with a name for your chocolate or snack company? So now I'm still learning. So far, I thought it's a chocolate company. Now I'm learning it's a snack company. So, how did you come up
Yeah,
with a name? And did you hire like a naming company, or it's something that you came up with, or maybe your cousin, friend, someone?
yeah, it's a good question. So the original concept, well, number one, no, I did not pay somebody. It's kind of one of those startup ideas where you want to be as efficient as possible with every aspect of creating the startup. And because I decided to bootstrap the business, a lot of the tasks end up coming onto my own plate. But the original concept, when you're snacking on something so delicious, you have this sense of bliss, right? You're on cloud nine. You're transported to another feeling where you're weightless. You're feeling incredible. That cloud nine. Fast forward to checking out to see if cloud nine was available on Google domains. No, cloud nine. But any misspelling of cloud nine, cloud 10, cloud 11, nothing available from a domain or a brand standpoint within that realm. And while I was working on the chocolate, it wasn't a need to have that immediately. I'm a big time Marvel fan. I love superhero movies. I'd like to say I like a lot of, fun, different fantasy world type movies and TV shows and comics, etc. And I was watching the Marvel marathon. Of course, it was 2020, had a lot of time to pass. And I was watching one of the Avengers movies, and there's a character named Nebula, who's part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it kind of hit me in that moment when I saw her come on screen. A nebula is a cloud in space. It's right, a supernova star that creates kind of a fun gaseous cloud that's super colorful and vibrant and glittery in a sense. And the moment that kind of clicked in my head, I started playing around with zero gravity snacking or anti-gravity snacking, supernovas of flavor, and I kind of just fell in love with the idea of branding the chocolate and the future snacks in a space capacity to tell a much larger story of right going out and finding these ingredients that actually can be good for us when Earth is currently being pumped with added sugars.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, not to offend any naming company, but I think you're better than all of them. It's amazing. And I also feel like it's so personal, but not so much. And it's exactly what you wanted, like something that's different, something that's, like Cloud Nine. And I think the name is amazing. I've always thought that ever since I saw the, package. And I was like, oh, that's like really catchy and easy to remember. I loved it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, nebula. I mean, it's actually funny. I refer to it primarily as nebula right now. It's not nebula snacks. It's just nebula. And then over over the long period of time that I plan to be in business, it will be a snacking brand.
Yeah, yeah. And did you have like a brand strategy in place before now if you're talking about the visuals, like logo, packaging, website, like did you have any kind of brand strategy in place? Like did you know who your ideal client is, maybe your brand voice, like what you want to stand for and things like that?
Yeah, to be honest, I would say there was a sense of a brand strategy in the early days, but I would say I was very conflicted at the same time. Naive first time founder. I wanted to appeal to everybody, right? And I think that's what everybody wants. Ultimately, you're looking to be able to create a product that everybody can enjoy and take pleasure in. But at the end of the day, you should focus your brand on who is most likely to purchase your product. And when I reflected on it, since launch, I've thought a lot more about who is my customer and who I want to appeal to. And I've changed a lot of things. And I'm currently also working on some new changes to rein that in a little bit. But in the early days, I knew I wanted it to appeal to the late night snacker, somebody like me who after dinner before bed loves to have a dessert or another sweet treat later in the night. And I really wanted to kind of bring out that comic book, that kind of, sci-fi characteristic. So our logo, right, is kind of reminiscent of, I would say, Star Wars with a little bit of a twist in it with Nebula snacks. And a lot of the branding subsequently, right, was super space forward. It showed just a very, here, I can actually show you one of the bars here. This dark chocolate bar, right? It's covered in space, super colorful, very vibrant. This was just beautiful. I love the packaging. I tell you more about how we got here as well in a moment, but it didn't necessarily find the right fit from how we were marketing the product. There was a lot of confusion as to what is the product, right? And despite it being very forward on the space front, it might have been a little bit more confusing than actually telling the story of this is a zero sugar product that is not going to weigh you down with the gravity of added sugars. So there was a lot of learnings from the initial packaging that was released for the chocolate.
Yeah, and how did you, now that we're already talking, about packaging and visuals, how did you come up with a logo, packaging, website? Did you know, okay, let me ask you first this, did you know what elements you needed for your brand, such as logo, packaging, website, before, starting a business or maybe while launching it?
Let's say I knew some of the basics. I probably missed out on some others. So I knew I needed a website, right? I had been working in digital marketing for a number of years, for almost 8 years. I knew I needed a website. I knew I needed a logo. Did I create a brand guide out the gate? No. Did I create a mood board? Yes. Right. I didn't have all my colors. I selected a few colors, which I really liked to be the brand colors, which is that purple you'll see on the website. I know that hex color by heart, but I didn't do as much as I probably should have to fully develop the brand for, the purpose of actually getting it out there into the market.
Yeah. So now that you mentioned some colors that you like, did you design all of that by yourself, like logo, packaging, website? I know it's a big question, but did you design it all by yourself or you hired a designer? And how did the process go?
Yeah. So the initial process went by creating mocks in, I think I wasn't even using Canva at the time. I did, and I should have been using Canva. I was using, I don't even remember the name of the application. It was a free application off of the App Store. And I just recommend anybody listening to this, take the $100, buy Canva, use Canva. It's worth it. And I was just putting mocks together on how I wanted the packaging to look. I put the logo, a couple of the main value propositions and kind of the product name there. Made sure that the nutrition facts had a panel on the backside. And then when the boxes came around, where I was also working on that, created mocks and then submitted it to a designer to clean up. Mm-hmm. The reason being, right, I, as a bootstrapped business, I had a vision for what I wanted the packaging to look like. And a designer can be incredibly expensive. So by mocking it up first, that allows kind of the next level to be fairly quick and doesn't, involve as much of a fee, generally speaking. Now, if things need to get completely overhauled or if they have some very valid points, then they can change things. But the designer that we worked with kind of just went for it and cleaned up the initial mock.
Yeah, I love that. And if you don't mind me asking, where did you find the designer? Was it like a recommendation or someone online?
Yeah, it was someone online. I worked with a couple of different designers. A couple were found on Upwork. Really find ones that I would say are off a referral basis instead of shooting down the barrel and getting random recommendations. I've had great designers that I've worked with on Upwork and also not so great designers. that I've worked with on Upwork. So, pick your poison on that front. Maybe see if you have a recommendation from another person that you know who's worked with designers on the platform in the past. And then the wrapping packaging actually was done after we found our packaging partner to create the wrappers. They had an in-house designer who helped us clean up our initial mock as part of the overall service in buying the product from them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and many designers who are on Upwork are, not finding like enough clients, or they're just not able to grow their business. So I always recommend like connecting with people either in person, like going for networking events, or really working on your website. Because I feel like if you were able to get a referral or recommendation from someone directly, maybe you would just go and work with that designer versus like trying them all on Upwork. And I've been there too when we had a lot of clients who were looking for website designs and website development, and all my developers that are here like on staff that work for my branding and design agency, they were all like so busy. So I had to find someone quickly for my client. And oh my God, it was like so bad on Upwork. But then we found this one amazing designer who's been now with me for the past 4 years. So, it really depends on the person. You can't really just judge the whole Upwork is bad or the whole Upwork is good. It's like so many different...
I've worked with, yeah, exactly. I've worked with great people on Upwork, and I've worked with not so great. You really got to make sure you know who you're talking to when you sign the contract, etc. Yeah, I mean, Upwork was great for very small projects. Now for packaging specifically, I think I would work with somebody more reputable or that I know personally, or have a strong referral to take on my packaging project. Yes.
Yeah, and when it comes to the website, did you also find someone on Upwork, or was it someone in person, or like how did you find the website designer?
Yeah, so the website is actually 100% designed by me. It's a Shopify theme. I created images. It's been updated since the initial website, but it's done with the free Shopify theme, just slowly updating it, adding new features, doing a little bit of custom coding. I am by no means a coder, but you can look up basic CSS or code snippets online that you can plug into small themes and get a little bit extra. At the time, it's still a free theme on Shopify. There are parts of it that I want to update in the future. And at that point, I will likely bring somebody on to build it out to the point where they're building it out without significantly decreasing my website speed. And that's the risk of working with somebody random on Upwork, is they can put together your vision for the site, but the site speed itself may not be incredible because they might just copy paste the code in and not really work on function.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had designers in the past who I've worked with or who worked for my company in the past, and they would, deliver this amazing website design. But I already knew that website design wouldn't be functional. I mean, it looks great, but it has too many elements. It would slow down the website. And then the developer would jump in and look through it and tell her, okay, we have to remove this, we have to add this. And that's how web designer and developer actually can work together. In case, one day you work with two people at the same time, but you also know a lot about it. I mean, you were in the digital world before you started your product-based business. So I'm confident that you'll find someone who will be able to help you, and you know a lot about it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, never hurts to do more research or have an in-depth conversation, I would say, ahead of the future. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so you also mentioned that when you talked about the packaging design, you use the past tense. So what does that mean? Does it mean you're rebranding, and why are you rebranding?
Yeah, so, rebranding slightly, the overall logo that's remaining, but a lot of the feedback that I received from a product standpoint, right? The chocolate bars today are kind of a standard candy bar size. They're about 42 grams a piece, similar in the amount of chocolate you would get in a regular Hershey's bar. Most of my customers, though, told me that they're not eating the entire bar in one sitting. They're breaking off a piece or two, maybe 3, to satiate their sweet tooth, and then they put the rest away in the pantry. And that was the vast majority of my customers were not eating the entire bar in one sitting. So as a means to better serve my customers and change things up a little bit, I'm changing the size of the bar. So the bar is changing to 10 grams, about 1/4 the size of the regular chocolate bar, so that you can enjoy an individually wrapped piece of chocolate at any given time. You can bring two over to you at the couch if you're doing a late night snacking, or if you're video gaming like me, or if you want to put it in your backpack or your briefcase or your purse on your way to work in the middle of the day, and you have a daytime snack. That would be perfect. And as part of that, I no longer have a standard bar size packaging need. I have to make new flow wrap designs for a much smaller piece of chocolate. And in terms of selling that in store, it's going to be in a stand-up pouch, which is something that I did not previously sell. And I had a small box that I sold in store. So I'm currently completely redesigning what that stand-up pouch would look like. And I'm using this as an opportunity to look backwards and say, here's all the things that I have heard and I've noticed since I launched that original packaging. And now what should I do to make sure it stands out on the shelf?
Yeah, because now you have a feedback. Now you have the real customers. Maybe in the past, when you designed it, you maybe had yourself in mind and yourself only, which doesn't mean that you're not your target audience. But now that you actually have the real target audience, people who have bought the product and getting the real feedback, it's amazing that you're now adjusting your product.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other piece of feedback was flavors, right? They wanted more flavors with the chocolate, because previously it was just the dark chocolate and the oat milk chocolate. They were just base chocolate bars. So I'm working on developing some new flavors and fillings of these small chocolate pieces. But yes, definitely listen to your customers. If you don't listen to them, you're really in a bad place. That's the only person you should be listening to.
Yeah, definitely. And is your packaging going to stay in that space, kind of like visual identity, or you're changing that to something else?
It's a very good question. So, I actually shared this on LinkedIn maybe a week or two ago. One of the most common questions I got, so I demo often at stores here in Austin where the bars are available for purchase. I give out free samples and people can see the packaging on the demo table. One of the most common questions I get when I'm handing out samples is, are there drugs in the chocolate? And, I never anticipated that originally with my packaging, but it was common enough where it got me thinking, I don't want the first question to be, is there drugs in this chocolate? Because then the ability to communicate that this is a healthy, sugar-free chocolate, zero sugar chocolate, is falling behind, right? And that's the primary point of the entire brand, is eliminating added sugars from our snacks that we love to treat ourselves with. So I'm not completely departing from the space, because I still love space and the branding and the forwardness of really thinking something out there is different. But there are slight changes coming from a color scheme standpoint, maybe not as aggressive with the stars that maybe confuse the individual on the front end, but getting a little bit in there to not completely detach from the original concept of the packaging. So that's still in development, though. I'm currently, right now, actually, for the last couple of weeks, I've been in Canva doing my mock process again on what I want the packaging to look like. And I've spoken with a few designers on their thoughts. I even posted some thoughts, on LinkedIn, asking for personalized feedback. And it's been a great process to get, that loop this time around, as opposed to just working in a black box saying, oh, this looks great, I'm going to do this, and not really seeking feedback from customers, as well as kind of just the general community that I've built in the CPG space.
Yeah, I love that. I was just about to ask, what is the process like of going through rebrand? Are you afraid that your company will lose its identity and look completely different, and that maybe people won't recognize it?
Absolutely. That's why I have been very slow to make these decisions and really think them through. I hope not. The goal is not to completely detach from where the brand originated, is to keep some of that space forward feel and vibe and nerdiness or puns that it was built on, but better communicate the core selling point of the product. Because at the end of the day, I'm selling a product, and I'm trying to get better snacks out there on the shelf for the consumer. So if my packaging is not getting that job done, then it has to be one of those emotionless decisions at times that you have to make and just say, you know what, despite my love of this packaging and some of the comments I've received that they really like it, at the end of the day, if it's not doing the job and communicating, right, it's not working. So I'm not departing completely. I'm putting a little bit more emphasis on the primary information pieces on the chocolate and getting a little bit more visual with the storytelling components on the packaging, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask you that is because for my branding and design agency, like when we get clients, most of our clients have been in their business between like 3 to 5 years, and they're now looking to rebrand because they got that feedback from customers, from clients, from other designers. So they're looking to rebrand, but then they're afraid of losing its identity. But that doesn't mean that they will lose it. And even if they do, if simply is not working, I mean, you're not creating that business in chocolate just for yourself, but for your customers. You are trying to help them be, healthier, be able to snack and whatnot. So it's not just, I always say we don't create our businesses for ourselves, even though it sounds sad, but that's how it is.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, granted, I'm a little bit earlier than the 5-year mark on rebranding, and I'd like to think I'm not just rebranding for the sake of rebranding. I am looking to take the early learnings from the first year in business and apply them so that this can actually grow to that 5-year mark, where hopefully I'm not rebranding again. And really focusing and starting to build a little bit further within the existing brand.
Yeah. And I have just one more question. Where do you see this brand in 3 to 5 years from now?
3 to 5 years. So if I look at my trajectory in my wonderful decks and forecasting, the goal is to have a couple of different snacks. So expanded beyond just chocolate. That will be likely in the baked goods category to start, but ultimately we'll be listening to the customers to see what they want first and foremost. And by that point, I'd hope to be in a couple of national retailers across the country. So right now the brand is very focused on the Austin market. I'm based in Austin. That is our city. That's our headquartered city. And we're looking to build here, at which point then we can focus on going into some larger chains, seeing if we can expand into Texas, the southern region, and then nationally thereafter. Hoping to be on shelves across the country. The real goal is to severely decrease our added sugar consumption in our snacks. It's 32% of our added sugar consumption in America, I believe, is our snacks. Behind beverages, but I'm not much of a soda drinker, so I focused on my own problem, and I wanted to be able to solve that for myself as well as the many others who are snackers more so than soda drinkers like myself. And that's really the goal of the brand. So slowly but surely growing, decreasing sugar intake in our snacks and making some great snacks, right? Making some great chocolates, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I've got some recipes for some cookies that I'm a big fan of today. But we'll see if I can bring them to the market within the next couple of years.
I love that. I can't wait to see it. Well, thank you so much for being here today with me. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Like maybe when it comes to like growing your business or some kind of advice?
For design and packaging, specifically, I'll just say, seek others' opinions. Maybe get a round of feedback, not only from friends who are likely biased, but go out and talk to strangers and say, what do you think of this? What's the first thing you see? What's the second thing you see? Is it something you'd want to buy? And that'll actually be the dictation of whether or not it's good packaging, right? Don't go based off of your biased instinct, which at times will be a good thing. Take some feedback into consideration, and then use that with your gut to develop your brand and seek your packaging for the future of your brand.
Yeah, definitely. Well, again, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm sure that this interview will help so many brand graphic and web design business owners understand what the client, so someone like you, is looking for when hiring a designer, and just learning more about what your process is like, because not every business owner goes through the same process. We all design and develop our brand identity, visual identity, and websites differently. So for example, you design your website on your own, but then you hire the designer for your packaging and so on. So it really depends. Well, again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today on The Profitable Graphic Designer. In addition to this podcast, we have created some amazing online courses to help you set up your business, get more clients, and scale to the income level you desire. If you need help developing your graphic brand or web portfolio so it stands out, if you want to learn how to create proposals new clients will say yes to, if you're still trying to figure out how much to charge for your services, and if becoming the go-to designer for your dream clients is your goal this year, then I invite you to enroll in my signature 12-week program, The Profitable Designer, or one of our other specialized online courses. To learn more about it and get started, visit aventivacademy.com. See you next time.